Okay, Sal, how's it going? This is part two of your beginner starseed package. This is the actual starseed reading. So I'm going to go into a little bit of foundational information just real quick, and then we'll just launch right into it and let you know where your innate frequency in other parts of the galaxy may be coming from. And I want to talk a little bit about the starseed mission in general. And then also, I want to address your comments, first of all, because thank you for taking the time. It does really help make sure that I'm steered in the right direction as far as my intuitive read. I'm really glad you're going back to the medium classes. I mean, everything is in its right timing right now, and it seems like seriously your path right now. And there's direct starseed markings to that particular aspect. You talked about your mom, how she may be transitioning soon, that she's been under a lot of care for many years. And it became very clear as I was preparing for this reading too, when I reflected back on those comments and looking at the chart, and it's like that relationship is really karmic for you, and it is not only directly connected to many of these starseed markings, but just in general that relationship with your mom is very karmic, and there's a lot that you're learning about yourself, and it's directly connected to your starseed mission. Like that relationship is meant to activate, or was meant to activate, your a specific aspect of that, of you, of something that you needed to learn and grow from and activate that specific, actually a couple of them, having to do with wisdom and having to do with sharing and having to do with nurturing. There's something about that relationship, regardless if it was those things or the opposite of those things, that is teaching you about how to do that for yourself. There's an incredible amount of wisdom that's coming from that, even if it's challenging for you. So thank you for your comments, because it does really help, fine tune things when we can make sure that we are on the same page. And it definitely, we'll get into both of those aspects as I do the starseed reading. Okay, so let's address starseed from an energetic perspective. So all of us as a soul, we all hold an innate frequency, incarnate many times over, if that's what you believe. And since we are not alone in the galaxy or the universe for that matter, it stands to reason that we could hold an innate frequency of experiences on other star systems. And so the idea is that any starseed race that would be consciously incarnating back into Earth bodies, into Earth experiences, is because they want to assist in the transition period that we on Earth are going through right now in our evolution as a galactic species, right? That Earth is going to evolve into this is the dimensional shift, the two world split. This is when we ascend to the next iteration, right? The RPMs go up in terms of what what frequency we're able to handle within our organic body. Well, that's a different conversation. But the point is that is the starseed mission. And so anybody that has those experiences was making a conscious decision at the soul level to come here to bring those particular aspects, because it's like memory, because any race that is coming here for the most part and coming in as a starseed already knows that they've been through the process. So it's about assisting, right? So even if you don't believe energetically that any of that's possible, just say that's not part of your belief system. Like you're super Christian, for instance. So you don't believe in reincarnation, and you just come in one time and then you go back into heaven, I guess, or go back to source, whatever it is. Then you spend eternity somewhere else. Even if you don't believe in any of things energetically, obviously you're a medium, so you do. But you can still look at everything archetypally in order to understand yourself better. And that is what ends up happening, is that I start to go through the starseed markings in the specific area of your chart and what that means and how it's interacting with other things. And then things start to deepen, which is why I realized after doing the starseed portion, how karmic the relationship is with your mom, and her transition that maybe has happened or is going to happen is a big part of what's going on. And connected to your starseed mission as well. So there's frequencies that you're holding from all of these other experiences that are meant to be valuable and helpful and meant to be shared on some level or utilized while you're enacting your mission here in Earth School, right, through this whole process. So I'm going to go through in no particular order, and we'll just start talking about it, okay? So, and here's obviously your natal chart. So we're going to first deal with Andromeda as a galaxy, because it's the only location that's outside of the Milky Way that I'm going to talk about. So Andromedan starseeds are very similar to the Milky Way starseeds, which is symmetrical, bipedal, 4 limbs, maybe not all bipedal, but definitely 4 limbs and a head. Andromedan beings have all of those features plus a set of wings, huge wings. So think archangels, mainly in terms of how we would characterize them if we were to see them. But the let's see here, the traits that are so characteristic of Andromedan starseeds have to do with freedom and going to great lengths to maintain freedom. So these starseeds tend to be the real pushers and the driving force behind social evolution and revolution, because they love freedom and independence, and traveling is like a spiritual practice. Time is an issue because it doesn't exist to Andromedan starseeds. It's a real, Andromedan starseeds, they love to be free. They don't like to make commitments. They want to be able to move at will whenever they want, hence the wings, right? To be able to just be free. And so they tend to be very protective of their emotional boundaries. Like I said, time is an issue for Andromedan starseeds, okay? And being flaky and being late are pretty common, all right? Because you want to be free at every moment, okay? Really dislike when they're treated unfairly and can really spot out emotional manipulation, okay? And so the freedom is like I said, spiritual practice. It's the driving force. It is, and it makes Andromedan starseeds, like I said, the driving force behind social revolution, because it's such it's a constant push to be free and to be self-actualized. Okay, so for you have these starseed, okay, I forgot to mention. Now, some things are going to be easily integrated into your current ego consciousness as Sal. And I will point that out. That means that your ego accepts that particular starseed incarnation well, and you know what I mean? There's no resistance there. It flows. You recognize it. It feels resonant when you express those parts of yourself. And then there are others that are not easily accepted and will create dissonance and guilt and resistance when you express those starseed parts of yourself in relation to certain areas in your chart. And I will let you know that as well, because then you start to see these different, and everybody seems to have like multiple starseed locations. There's hardly anybody that's like, yeah, it's just one place. You just came from one place. It's like, no, many of us have done this many times now and have been on, we're just, the soul frequency is older because there's been many incarnations, some of them really ancient. So that's something to keep in mind. So this axis of your ascendant and your descendant is what very favorable and accepting of your Andromedan starseed. And you have Gemini ascendant, like there is no containing mutable air, right? And you are a master weaver, and it's a mockingbird spring, like this bird imagery in terms of who you are. You want to fly free, and that is your like superpower. That is the essence of who you are, is this Gemini here. There we go. This Gemini ascendant. And even the fire that it stimulates within you when you're in some sort of shared relationship, it gives you a sense of responsibility to that relationship. Even that, is still well integrated with Andromeda, because the thing is, you only really commit to something that you are 100% going to commit to, and then you commit to it, right? That's who you are in the context of any kind of partnership, whatever it is. Like, once you make the commitment, there's no stopping you. But you're really hard pressed to make half-ass commitments, because who you are is, you need to be free in every given instance, other than those aspects that you 100% commit to. And that makes you a huge driving force, you as a person, just your personality, into social evolution. So that's really cool. I just get this really free feeling, thinking about, like, and how absolutely powerful it is when somebody is that absolutely embodies freedom and the ability to be independent. Excuse me, it's just the incense. The power behind somebody like that makes a commitment is unstoppable. And there's a responsibility to it as well that I think that you feel. I gotta put this out. So that's something that we can talk about. But this is, your Andromedan Starseed connection is like probably most recent, because it's right on your ascendant like this. Well, at least in a trine, like in a favorable aspect. So next up is Arcturus. Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. All right, so your moon in Sagittarius. Now, there's a couple things here. Number one, I think we've already talked about this. Your moon was in conjunction with the new moon solar eclipse that was, where was that? In December. And we are still in that cycle. Do not forget that. So that really activated something in terms of, with your mom, right? The moon, you're in the 6th house. This is making you personally very sensitive to your personal reconstruction and your reorientation as an individual person, your discipline. And with it being Scorpio, it's going to be so much of your ability to plunge into the unknown is what really conditions you into being the best version of yourself. And the moon being there has a lot to do with, when it's in the 6th house like this, there's a tendency when things get really tough that you want to be mothered. And this is teaching you how to mother yourself, essentially. And late Sagittarius, this degree specifically, it's such a beautiful degree because it's really about the reward that is waiting for us, waiting for those who are committed and hold a positive attitude. They're the bluebirds perched on the cottage gate. It's just, everything about it is just like good, all the Sagittarian, like good fortune and prosperity and everything that you want waiting for you. When you make a commitment to something, a cultural value, and you follow through with it, right? So there is a lot of sensitivity to this, to you really learning about yourself and learning how to, and taking responsibility for reconstructing and recalibrating yourself, plunging into the unknown and letting that actually make you into the best version of who you are. You do very deep work. Like you're calibrated for very deep work. And so here you are with your moon. This is an Arcturus. This is an Arcturian starseed marking, right? And again, your consciousness accepts this well. And so emotionally, right, that's your moon, how you feel, your intuitive nature, your ability to speak for others, right? Because it allows you to feel things. That's the moon. There's such a sensitivity and a wisdom here that you are able to lead by example, right? Then you're able to because that's what Arcturus is about. Let's talk about the Arcturians. Let's just do that. So the Arcturians are very ancient. Arcturus is a star. It's one of the brightest stars in our night sky. It is very archaic, and so the Arcturians live on planets around Arcturus. They embody wisdom, knowledge, and they enjoy the transmission of it, right? These are the teachers. These are the wisdom keepers, and these are the builders. And so people who are Arcturian starseeds are drawn to sacred geometry and ley lines, quantum physics, ancient civilizations. These are the people that want to understand the mechanics behind, the pyramids in Egypt. What were they really for? And the ley lines, making connections to the ley lines, sacred geometry, right? Teaching and sharing knowledge, very strong opinions because their information is wisdom based. They've just been around for so long. So designing and planning sustainable energy, community living. Again, this is about utilizing the spiritual tech in a very materialistic way, but also being able to understand geometry and color and sound as ways of transmitting information, right? And so Arcturians, there's a lot of people who channel the Arcturians, and there's a lot of information about all of this stuff that you can engage. But what I will say is that Arcturian starseeds are really here to transmit the information through teaching, sharing information, workshops, showing people, teaching people, providing examples for people on how to use the spiritual technology of the universe, right? The truth of the universe, and apply it in a very physical way by being in alignment with natural energy, right? That's why, again, sacred geometry and ley lines and quantum physics. This is the wisdom of how the universe and natural law works, and being able to transmit the knowledge of it. The professors or Boots, Arcturus is in the Boots constellation, and Boots is the sheep herder, right? And it's so in some ways it is, these are beings that are kind of shepherding us into, the transition from divine knowledge into divine technology, if that makes sense. So your moon is one of these points as well in a favorable light. And it's the work you do on yourself and the sensitivity that you feel towards this recalibration in a very deep and just very deep and penetrating way on yourself it allows you to be an example, if that makes sense. Plus, you utilize what you know from your time in Arcturus to catalyze your transformation, your recalibration as an individual, right? You are able to draw on that divine technology and that spiritual wisdom in order to transform yourself. There's definitely some karmic connection here with your mom to draw some of these things out, okay? Next, we have Lyra, the constellation of Lyra, and the Lyrans are the oldest. They've been around since the beginning of the universe, probably, because everything formed fairly quickly once the Big Bang happened, as far as I understand it. So Lyrans really embody the Capricorn energy. They are fierce. They are totally into where are they? They're totally into, there we go. They're totally into the physical experience, the physical world. They love it. They push their physical limits. The Lyrans have a work ethic, a physical work ethic. They are so old that it's believed to be the root race of all the humanoid races in the Milky Way galaxy. If you remember the movie Contact or read the book, Vega is in the Lyra constellation, and Vega was the star system that they went to in the device that went through the wormhole. They were billions of years old. So the Lyrans have been around the galactic block for so long that's why they're so fearless physically. They pursue their dreams fearlessly. They push their physical limits. They like and enjoy labor. They enjoy watching people and analyzing social situations. So it's not reckless. It's just fearless. And they're very invested in Earth because they are invested in a lot of places that have progressed throughout the galaxy. They've seeded a lot there, and they're very old. A lot of times there's so much variability. I don't really get caught up in those particular details, but the Lyrans are often characterized as feline. It's not all of them, but that seems to be the one that's coming through the most. And sometimes birds too. There's a lot of that. But the thing is about, if you think about them as cats or felines, I mean, it does kind of fit into, again, a fearlessness, a physical prowess, natural leaders, because they're very experienced and comfortable living in 3D. These are starseeds that just have they love to use their bodies. They love to experience the physical world, and they've done it for so long that they're not, you know what I mean? They know, they explore. They love to explore, and they just are, it's very Capricornian. That's where Lyra is in the sky, is in Capricorn. And so, they brought fire to humanity. These are the people that would sell their home and leave on a sailboat. This is very root chakra oriented and mastered the survival and the physical, because they're very grounded. So this is what the Lyran starseeds are. So you have that 8th house, which is the occult house, the house of death and rebirth, right? Of sexuality, the Scorpio house. That is where your Lyran starseed is the most prominent, which means it's, opposite your 2nd house. Again, you have a 2nd house Cancer. I feel like, again, this is you pulling in a lot of the karma from your mom and your maternal line, potentially. And it's also very strongly connected to the moon's nodes for you too, the Lyran aspect. So this is where you get your fearlessness. This is where you get, especially in the realm of the shadow and the realm of the occult and mediumship, right? That 8th house. You have this ability to be fearless and to step up when you may not necessarily feel ready, but when you call on this Lyran aspect, you can go into that space really easily because you can draw upon, experiences that are so old that they may be close to as old as the universe itself. And so you have nothing to fear by facing the unknown, right? Whereas what you've inherited is this sense that you have to sanctify and ritualize any kind of thing that you do. I'm not exactly sure how this is manifesting necessarily with your relationship with your mom, but it feels pretty strong. And that's not fearless at all. That's worrying about other people's emotions and needing an emotional sanctification before doing anything. Lyrans they are in total control of themselves. So they're going to go for it. And then your nodes are also favorably linked here. So again, it's a narrow path that you're walking. And in Pisces, in that 10th house, and so, and you have the South Node down here in Virgo. And so it gives you this fearlessness and this leadership quality, especially talking about the 10th house, a leadership quality and an ability to really be focused on your goal. Because you need that when you're walking a narrow spiritual path. You have to be very, very clear about where you're going so that you can stay on the path, because there's only, you can't afford to be distracted or taken off path. And so again, Lyrans, these are the type of people that love physical labor and will not stop until it's done, right? So you bring that in when you are on this pathway of your soul's evolution in this lifetime, which is the moon's nodes. It's very karmic. Okay, so next we have Orion. And I know this is a lot of information, and I'll try to give you a synopsis when we're done of what it all means. Orion, the constellation of Orion, the hunter. So we are dealing with a wide berth here, and it is very much related to Gemini. So Orion starseeds, let's talk about them. They are Orion starseeds. They are a higher dimensional, higher consciousness than humans, right? But one thing that they really like, and this is why they're so important right now, and they're really present, is that they love to be in the duality. They've mastered the duality. They are masters of their willpower and self-discipline. This is a very solar plexus chakra area. And the reason that they like their duality and the competition is that it sharpens their skills. It makes them better at whatever they're doing. So Orion starseeds are like masters at debate, right? You learn everything about your topic and their topic. You pick your position and you fight for it. You compete for it. You don't take it personally. It's just about taking, you know what I mean? You will put yourself 100%, but it doesn't mean that you can't equally just switch the other side. That's the mutability of Gemini. That's why Geminis tend to feel very two-faced or untrustworthy, because they are able to successfully know lots of different conflicting things. So Orion starseeds like the competition. They like the duality. They've learned to live within it. It's insatiable thirst for knowledge, right? Analyze and dissect all forms of information. This is probably describing a lot of you, because your ascendant also is very connected to these markings. So you have your ascendant, that's, Andromedan galaxy, which is, freedom, complete freedom, utter freedom. And then you have Orion, which is just like the competitive masters at debate. And so you can see that a lot of who you are is a very powerful, strong person, ambitious person, very strong opinions, very much behind the social evolution. And there's other aspects of wisdom, and we'll get to your Pleiadian aspect, and also Alpha Centauri, that softens you and is meant to bring in the things about your relationship with your mother and the maternal line that are really important to integrate. But this part of you is probably very familiar. So you analyze and dissect all forms of information. You hold your opinions very strongly. And it takes a lot of quantitative proof for somebody to get you to change your opinion or your position on something. Quite knowledgeable about a wide area of topics. And there's a tendency to react to things non-emotionally. You also require a lot of time to recharge. You need to be alone in order to recharge, because so much of your time with people is in this space of like always in the debate, always in the knowledge stream, always in the competition, right? Striving for perfection, having a good handle on, or you're training your willpower and self-discipline. That's one positive way of thinking about it, rather than thinking about it negatively, where you are always like in opposition or resistance to somebody. This is more of just like you're always training your willpower in some way. So operating from duality sometimes can be a little bit more cold, but it's not even that. It's just more divine masculine than not is expressed in, Gemini's an air sign. The air is more of the masculine aspect. So you have, like I said, your ascendant. Of course, your moon and your descendant are much more about collective values, because we're talking about Sagittarius. So belief systems, understanding, merging of knowledge and ideas to come to understanding. So of course, Orion is, those parts of yourself are going to push back when you express this Orion part of you that's just like, nah, dude, like this is how it is. And your moon, so this again, there are aspects that are meant to soften you and to give you insight on how to use this position in order to create something new, right? It's also in square to your nodes, which is interesting because your nodes being, again, water and earth, again, it's asking you to be more receptive, you don't have to like try so hard to do anything. You just have to have the stamina and the fearlessness and the ability to be in the flow in order to go where you're going, which is not what Orion's really, it's mutable, but it's not in the flow. It's definitely about the dance of duality with Orion. So anything that, like I said, your moon and the nodes and even Pluto, they're much more, when you express this Orion part of yourself, these aspects kind of push back because they're more about receiving, they're more about feeling something, and the Orion aspect is not that at all. And so it's opposite over here in your DC, who you are in your partnerships. It's opposite your moon, and it's in square to your nodes, and also in square to Pluto in your fourth house too. And that's where you're making the biggest transformation, and having, the biggest contribution is really in the realm of your personal power. And again, receiving and getting, remembering how you were able to create something because of an inner desire, for instance. And it's not all about the mind, basically. It's not all about the mind, which is hard for you because your ascendant is Gemini. So it is, a lot of you, it is about weaving of, it's very magician. I mean, that's really what this is you're a magician in terms of your Starseed, Andromeda, and Orion, but there's other aspects of your magicianhood that you need to be more high priestess, if that makes sense. Not more, that's just what needs to be cultivated. And so Arcturus is helping with that because that's more of a wisdom and a teaching and being integrated. Your Pleiadian, let's get right, we'll get in your Pleiadian. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Which is conjunct your Venus, okay? How Pleiadian is Venus? Venus is the ruler of Taurus, and she's at home in Taurus and right over top of the Pleiades. This is very, very beautiful to have your Pleiades here, and this is in your 12th house, and so much of... And this has a lot to do with the ability to regenerate into a new cycle of life once an old one has ended. It's actually about, the symbol itself is what the chance to begin again after a woman goes through her change of life or menopause, right? So it's a maturing. It's a very mature aspect of Venus, and in your 12th house, it's very much about the collective karma and your relationships within it, how you, where your personal value is directly connected to the realm of inspirations and dreams and the collective unconscious. And this is your Pleiadian aspect too. So again, it's really about learning to embody all of this really feminine, fluid, receptive, dark, not in a bad way, dark energy, but that polar opposite side of you in order to be a fully balanced person in order to do your work. Because there's just, there's a lot of intense qualities that you have. And it's also opposite Neptune, right? And so Neptune in your 6th house makes your reconstruction so thorough that you may not come back from it, right? You may completely lose yourself in the process of trying to rebuild yourself, and then get caught in the value of struggle with a specific group. If that's 0 degrees of Sagittarius is like all of these retired army officers coming back together, and that whole spirit of courage and fighting gets brought up because that's really what Sagittarius is about. It's about the fire, and it's the friction fire that creates something new because it but melts everything down and then creates a new thing, right? The spiritual alchemy. So you just have to be careful. And the thing about the Pleiadian aspect is that it's about being fluid and nurturing, and empathic and sharing in in a physical way. Pleiadians are all about open heart chakra, right? This is not open heart chakra, or attuned to natural energy. This is about the spirit of fighting, and the friction that has to go into the taming of civilization, I guess. So again, you can see there's a potential here for, as you walk into the unknown, as as your sixth house cusp details, as you walk into the unknown, you could find yourself becoming aligned with, okay, here it is. You can find yourself becoming aligned with more with the collective need. You can find yourself identified with the collective need as a result of you going into this personal reconstruction, plunging into the unknown, plunging into the darkness. But if you're not comfortable with your feminine, if you are not able to successfully connect into the darkness without losing yourself, you easily can get pulled into the collective sense of what are we fighting for. Does that make sense? And with a person who is easily, I wouldn't even say easily, is just a driving force behind social evolution, you could get pulled into causes that aren't actually yours, or you don't know that they're not yours because Neptune just dissolves it, and it's retrograde too. And so it's also not. See, the thing about the Pleiades is that you may be fluid and you merge with people, but you don't lose yourself. I mean, you can, I guess you can. Like, Pleiadian starseeds tend to be they have terrible boundaries. So I guess that's really where this comes in. But it's when you express that Pleiadian part of yourself that wants to be open in the heart and share with people. There's some resistance here to this that I don't quite understand, actually. So I'm going to table that. All I can say for sure is that this also is in conjunction with Alpha Centauri, which is our closest stellar neighbor. And those starseeds are the protectors and the providers, right? And so that's not merging from a heart space either. That's an individual who is going to take responsibility for and provide for somebody else, which is in opposition to what the Pleiadian archetype is, which is much more about like everybody connecting with each other and mutually serving each other's needs. This is way more about, I'm going to be somebody that takes responsibility as a protector and a provider. I think I see this now. Again, this is why it's important that you are learning to connect with and understand what nurturing yourself really means. And this is part of your starseed activation. I'm still having a hard time kind of pulling it together. But what I do know is you have Andromeda, Arcturus, Orion, Lyran, no Sirian. So that's interesting. No Sirian, but then you have Alpha Centauri and the Pleiadian. So you have all of those starseed markings. And they all are interacting with each other in different ways. It would seem to me that your personality and the person you are with other people in your shared part, in your committed relationships, is very masculine. It's very magician-like. It's very manifesting. It's very wanting freedom, being the fiercest advocate you can imagine for your relationships. And there's also deep wisdom that is meant to be pulled in to help to help you mother yourself, to nurture yourself, to get in touch with that aspect of yourself. Because when you are able to put those two things together, then you are unstoppable in terms of what you're here to do, which is very much about the collective and the karma of the collective. It's all tied together with all this 11th and 12th house stuff. So it's Andromeda, Orion, Arcturus, Lyra constellation, where you get your absolute fearlessness from, and Pleiadian, your Venus in the 12th house. That's so nice. You can really feel inspired in a very spiritual way, having that connection there. And renewal specifically, if you're having a hard time, I think tapping into that energy of there's always a new beginning after an ending of something. You can tap into it through a Pleiadian connection. I think that's really in a sensitive way, right? You feel it in your body, being inspired to create something artistic, being inspired to nurture your physical body somehow. You know what I mean? Do something that feels good to you. Do something that inspires you spiritually. I think that's really what it is. If you can be inspired spiritually, to the Pleiadian aspect is really going to help you. So I don't know if you have much connection to any of these starseed connections, but you can start making connections to them. I think that would be helpful. And I think that there is you have a mission, and you know it, and you can really expand yourself through that mission, and it's really about going into the depths, okay? And the fearlessness and your ability to plunge into the unknown and to go into the darkness is really a big part of what you're supposed to do. And there is karmic wisdom through your relationship with your mother, whatever it was, that is also meant to really help reorient you and recalibrate you and condition you as the sorcerer magician you're supposed to be. Now, what happens though is, because of that relationship, at the same time, you I think that you don't really, how do I say this? It's about getting in touch with your inner feminine, because you're really in touch with your outer masculine and your magician part, but you have to be able to mother yourself. And if you're able to do that and connect to the feminine in a healthy way, and I'm not saying your relationship with your mom is unhealthy, I really don't know. I think it just is what it is, and it's teaching you things so that you can be a whole person when you come into your soul's work, because it is a narrow path that you are meant to travel, and you don't have a lot of room for deviation, which I think the full moon hopefully gave you some insight into, and also what you need to do in order to prepare yourself to get there. I mean, a lot of this lunar cycle has been impactful for you directly in that way. So you're in that Orion part of you, the Andromedan part of you, freedom, the insatiable thirst for knowledge, being really in the competitive spirit and letting it sharpen your skills and mastering your willpower. All of those things are really strong with you. But if you really want to be, you're going to have to enhance the feminine aspect from within you, and make sure that it's a healthy representation and not getting caught up in the provider role necessarily to compensate for that, because it's really not about that. It's more about being really intuitive and sensitive and receptive, so you can go deeper, go a lot deeper into your role as a medium, because you have such a strong, the capacity is outrageous, and it's been around your whole life, and you know that. It's just about to deepen quite a bit, and and your mom's transition is directly connected to it, and your relationship to her is directly connected to it as well. I just don't see very, like, completely clearly what that is. And that's okay, because maybe that's just for you to know. Maybe that hasn't come through yet. I don't know. So you think I was psychic or something? Anyway, that's a starseed reading. I always think that these are going to be short, and then they turn out to be just as long as the rest of them. So I hope this wasn't too confusing, that you got a lot of insight from this. Any insight whatsoever, please feel free to ask any questions, comment like you did before. That's totally fine. And then let me know how things are going, if you need any extra support. Yeah, I'd be curious to know about your classes. I'm always curious about those kinds of classes, and that alternative education institutions, right? I'm curious about those too. But yeah, I hope everything is going okay, and let me know if you need anything. And it was a pleasure working with you. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.